All right. Welcome. I know we're a little behind today. I can be responsible for that one. It's on me. Nevertheless, we have an exciting show for everybody tonight. But first, let's introduce the elements. I'm Earth.
I'm Wind.
I'm fire.
And I'm water.
All right, so this is what we got tonight. It's a barn burner, maybe. Who knows? So tonight, I want to talk about: do you have a say so in your life? Do you? It's a good question to ask yourself. Do you have a say so? Meaning, are you in control of your life? That's what it means. Are you at the mercy of life? Or do you have life at the mercy of you? Who gets to say? Who does? Who says so? Do you say so? Does your past say so? Does your view of life say so? Who runs your life? Or do you say so? Who knows? So let me check in with the elements real quick and see what they got on that. What y'all got?
Man, a lot, bro. Actually, I got a lot. There's levels to this thing, and I have this rabbit hole conversation that I'm dealing with within myself because when you first pose the question, I think about my obligations and the things that I signed up for. I'm gonna give you a prime example. Let's take work, for example, right? If I have a conference call that I have to be on at 7 o'clock my time, is somebody else like running the show of my life? Well, I chose the job, right? I chose to accept the meeting, and I'm choosing to be there with my shirt on and my shorts and my house slippers because everything is from the waist up in this work from home world. And so, am I really? Am I ever not in control? Right? And I think in this age, the post chattel slavery age, that we do have, and even in that stage, you had free will. You can either do it, you can either get in line, or you can die. Right? Those are some really harsh options, really extreme options. But I think choice. My point is the distinction choice is always at play. And even if we're obligated to something because we have a commitment to be somewhere or do something at a certain time with a certain someone or people, we still set that up. Like I've never had a gun to my head, had a gun to my rib cage, but not to my head, where somebody was forcing me to do something that I did not want to do. I'll take a pause there.
Elements.
I like that. Yeah, I'll chime in. I think what fire is speaking of is something that I really, really make a point to not allow myself to fall into, which is what I consider a victim mentality. So a lot of times when either in the past or I guess it happens at times when I get into a victim mentality, I really understand that I'm not really saying that I am the one who actually can dictate what's going on. And maybe I may not be able to dictate circumstances and what is actually happening, but I can dictate how I react to that, how I actually interpret that. So when Fire was saying what he was saying, it just made me think of victim mentality and how I really make it a point to not fall into that because that's a very slippery slope that never ends. If I never want to take responsibility and I never even think that I can take responsibility, right? I never even think that I have a say so in the matter, then that's a problem. And just as Fire was saying, in slavery times, it was a bad, like that. There's a harsh decisions. You can either just go along with that regimen or you can just die. That's a harsh decision. However, there's another decision of you just can make it. You can decide that, hey, I'm not going to suffer through this. I personally not going to suffer through this. Now, I'm being an armchair quarterback because, of course, I didn't experience that. None of us experienced that. And so to be able to do that is a very, very, I guess that's a big ask to do. However, in this conversation in this ethereal conversation where we're kind of just tossing ideas around, I think that having a say so, to me, that's what it looks like. How about you, Wayne?
I think our capacity to have a say is dictated by our level of consciousness. So if we have no level, if we're not conscious whatsoever, then we actually function by default. We function by historical programming. So and even as we are highly evolved human beings, all four of us, you know, we're still impacted adversely by some of that default. So there's always going to be levels for us to arrive at as long as we live.
Good. I like everybody's comments. So I wanna add something. What about your past? What do you think about like your past actually running the show? When you like, some people actually go through life thinking that they're actually running the show, but it's their past that's running the show. Their past experience was running the show. Their past experiences that has them to walk through life being a no to pretty much anything. And we've met people like that. And if you ask them, they'll say, like, I'm in control, I make all my decisions, but really they're just walking through life as like the past, or having the past actually run the show for them. What do y'all think about that one?
I think the past is more of an irrelevant factor in determining whether or not it is a factor in running the show. I think Wynn pointed to it. He actually spoke about it, which is it is the consciousness that is the driving force for the past running the show. Let me say it a little bit more plain. If I have no awareness that that certain things that occurred when I was a child is driving who I'm being today, then I think I have a say, but I really don't, right? It's who I created, who I became, in order to not experience the pain or trauma that I experienced as a child, right? But with consciousness, like the work that we all did together, do I still have blind spots? Yeah, they're few and far in between. But I'm very clear about who I became as a result of some of the most traumatic things that happened in my childhood. And so I can consciously choose to be somebody who becomes indifferent, somebody who becomes stoic, somebody who becomes detached in the face of feeling or experiencing pain, right? A disappointment or unmet expectations. Or I could choose a different path with consciousness, right? So with consciousness, there comes choice. Without consciousness, to your point, Earth, I think that most people actually are doing and being and making decisions and showing up in the world in a way to prevent or protect something from occurring, right? That has occurred in the past that was unwanted. And it's just our automatic success mechanism, I think, as human beings, is like, or living organisms, like something was bad or traumatic and I didn't like it. I don't want to keep overusing the word traumatic because I know there's a lot of overuse these days, but something unintended, undesirable has occurred. I don't want it to happen again and again and again. So I create this way of being to keep people at a distance or at bay, so I don't have to go through that again. I think that's most people, bro, unconsciously. So consciousness is the determinator for me versus the past itself running the show. The past is irrelevant. It's my consciousness that determines whether or not that thing is in the driver's seat.
And that's exactly last week what I was talking about this identity that we have worked so hard to create. So what Earth was just mentioning to me is, well, I guess his question is the identity. I'm rephrasing that in my mind. Is our identity running the show? And I would say yes. just as Fire, what you were saying, Fire, what I heard from you is that, hey, if you're able to bring consciousness, whether that be presence, whether that be a little bit of stillness, whether that be a little bit of just awareness, then no, it won't run the show. However, for the vast majority of everybody on the planet, yes, it does run the show. And I would say that identity has been built up from everything that you were saying, Fire, that past, protecting ourselves from something.
Yeah.
That's where we built that up from.
Yeah. You on mute, her? There you go.
Yeah, you all really hit the nail on the head. That's why I was driving this conversation, to get to the identity. And it's really, the identity is made up of several components. It's who other people say you are, that you agree to. It's who your experiences say you are, and you agree to that as well. And it's overall who you say you are, and you agree to all three of those things, makes you basically, for most people, who they show up as today, which actually has to say so in their lives, which actually dictates their successes. It dictates their failures. It dictates everything. It dictates whether or not they get married, whether or not they have children. It dictates, whether or not they hop around from job to job. It dictates how they interact with family members, how they interact with friends. It literally, for many of us, and I argue most of us, it dictates all of those things, every aspect of our lives. And it's our identity and who we agreed, because we have to make the agreement. Somebody can say you're worthless, but if you don't agree to that, you're not worthless. But if you agree to it, then you're actually worthless. If somebody says you're not going to amount to anything, if you agree to that you're not, then you won't. It's really that simple. It's that simple.
Say it again, Earth, about the 3 vantage points of identity. The way you said it before was like,
Yeah.
how others? Yeah.
Yep. It's how others, what others tell you are, who others say you are, okay? Who your life experiences, which how you experience life dictate to you who you are.
Yeah.
It could be, for example, for boys, at a young age, there's a pecking order that no one says that, you're like the leader of this little group, or you're not, or you're at the bottom. It just happens. And life actually dictates that to you, and you agree to it or not. And who you actually tell yourself, who you say, based on what you make up that you are, that's who you are. So it's those 3 things. But we have to be in agreement with those. We have to accept those things as though they're true. And it cannot be any other way outside of that. And then that's how we navigate life. And so we never get an opportunity to say, this is what I want, to have our actions dictate that. You muted yourself.
Somebody, the host just keeps muting me. I don't keep muting me. I got the quiet house, man. Why you keep muting me? That is deep. And I just want to just bring to the forefront to make present to everybody watching and listening. So sort of 3 contributors or vantage points of our identity. And I'm gonna flip what Earth did. This is the beauty of not hosting, so you can actually like take it all in, right? When you're hosting, man, you are in the pocket trying to keep the conversation point. I'm getting all kinds of stuff as a participant that I wasn't getting last week, all right, as the leader. But I think,
so one of the things I think you should get also is that you don't have the quiet house. That's why you've been getting muted. But we're gonna let you keep thinking that you do. We're gonna let you keep thinking that you do.
It's not me, bro. It's quiet over here. Self. So self as foundational. When I wrote everything down, others, experiential self, or how I experience myself, the feedback or the interpretations that I get from the reaction of me, and then the self itself. So who do I say I am is the foundation for me. Who I say I am.
Mhm.
And who I say I am, what I realize is that at a young age, I got to design who I wanted to be, even if that wasn't my experiential reality of myself at that moment of time. And I didn't give a bleep about what others thought, but these three things that Earth has pointed out really reinforce one another. Like I see, like, the self as the foundational that spills over into how others experience me, how I experience myself based on reactions, and then what others are saying, which is the feedback to close the loop. And so I say that to say this. This is the check. This is the self-assessment, right? It's 360. Am I being who I said I am based on others, my experience of myself and others' experience of me? Is it consistent? Like, that's the check. And this is why I love in corporate America, we have rounded feedback. So every year there's a performance review that your merit increase is based upon, but then there's an opportunity to get rounded feedback. That's called a 360 review, where you get your peers, you get your superiors, you get your subordinates. That even sounds crazy. And then you get your employees, and then you get customer feedback. If you're so bold, I always opted for the 360. People be like, "What are you doing? That's not mandatory. You don't have to do that. Your merit is based on what your boss says you are. The metrics, the key performance indicators, KPIs that you hit, you're going to get bonused on that. Why are you bringing in all these other perspectives into the evaluation? Well, I wanted to know. Because why? I wanted to know that who I said I am for myself was consistent with others' experience of me, not for me to fall in line with who others think that I am, or who I want them to think I am, but more importantly, who I said I was ultimately at the end of the day. So, man, this is good, Earth. What you hearing, Win, Water, with regards to these sort of three vantage points of the identity?
I think that people say all sorts of things all the time, but their reality is a whole different thing. So you could say that you want something, right? But are your actions consistent with what you say you want? So there's a saying that there's two tongues, right? One lies and the other one doesn't. So the other tongue in your mouth is the one that lies. The one in your shoe is the one pointing to the direction where you're going and never lies. And so a lot of people, like say for instance, we experience this particularly. It's clear in relationships, right? Where people say that I want a girlfriend, I want a boyfriend, I want to get married, but their actions are not consistent with that type of outcome. Like you said, from past experiences, we barricade ourselves. We barricade ourselves from our own self, and we barricade ourselves from other people because we're trapped in a loop of fear, lack, and scarcity. And we barricade ourselves from ourselves because we no longer trust ourselves to make good and rational decisions, because we felt that we've judged ourselves to the extent that because of those experiences, we feel in the background that we can't make a good decision, because everything that I choose, everything I decide, it goes awry. Every guy I choose, every woman I choose, is something wrong. So you can't, at the end of the day, you can't get the outcome that you want. So you can say that you got to say, but at the end of the day, do you really got to say? The answer is no.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that this is good because at the end of the day, we did, as a child, like Fire said, we were in a moment of I get to make up who I'm actually going to be. It's just that no one knows that as a child. And the most unfortunate thing is that most parents don't know to teach their child that that's possible. And what Wynn's pointing to is basically the outcome of being a child that was never pointed in that direction. And if I can still Earth Thunder, I think that this conversation is going in the direction that no matter what age you are, you still have that choice. Am I still in your Thunder Earth? Because I think that's really where we're going.
Yeah, we're actually navigating to that point and a couple other points. But go ahead. You this is great. This is really great.
That's what I had, man. That's what I got from that. That's
Yeah,
what I got from both what Fire and Wynn were saying.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's you. At the end of the day, it's you at the beginning of the day. It's you in the middle of the day. It is all, regardless of what drives your choices. Doesn't matter what's driving it. You're getting an outcome, and are you dictating the outcome, or has the outcome already been dictated for you based upon your view of yourself and your view of the world, centered around the three things I mentioned earlier, which actually begins to create the identity? Do you get an opportunity to check in with yourself to see who's actually behind the wheel? Because if you're not getting those outcomes that you say you want, consider that you don't have a say so at all. If you're not getting those outcomes, there's something else driving, and it's not you at all. And I always argue that it is your past, something from your past, that's actually behind the wheel, which is giving you the outcomes that you get. And you're just a passenger. That's all you are, like puppet on the string. And consider, and this is gonna actually kind of go into that arena that you mentioned in the pre-call, Fire. Consider that your future is already predestined based upon who's driving, who's behind the wheel. It's already been written. Your outcomes are already going to be there because you keep getting them over and over and over and over and over. Because you don't have a say so at all.
And this goes back to what Water was talking about a few weeks ago with presence. We're not present. And what present really means is, being conscious at every given moment. It requires, a lot of exercise. It requires being um, conscious about the outcomes that you want to generate. It requires consciousness about the actions that are required to get that outcome at every given moment. It requires us to ask ourselves all the time, is what I'm doing right now getting me, is it keeping me in the same express lane or freeway that I ought to be on to get to my destination? Or am I detouring right now? And if you're detouring, then you need to recalibrate and get back on that appropriate expressway or freeway to get to your destination. But you always got to be, like we were talking about a few weeks ago, be in that inquiry. You always got to ask yourself, have conversations with yourself, have conversations with like-minded people, with people that you respect and admire. Do you think I'm in the right lane? Am I on the right freeway? Is my actions, does it appear that my actions are consistent with being married? Does my actions appear to be consistent with, getting that director's job? What can I be doing? What can I be doing better? What can I be doing more effectively, more efficiently? You know, um, you always have to be in that type of inquiry. That's presence. That's consciousness.
Yeah, what Wynn is referring to is about 3 weeks ago we had a conversation about presence. So maybe we can actually put that somewhere up here on the YouTube so that people can just click on it and go to it. And I want to go back to I like everything that Wynn said, and to add on to what you were saying, Earth, about your future's already predetermined. That say that one again. I want to make sure I got that because everyone can see right now. Fire is the king of.
Uh-oh.
That dang magic jack, boy! I tell you, every time he puts in the pocket.
You must have sent him some of that Calabasas.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, I'm taking cook.
Frozen.
He'll come back, but when he come back, we'll turn it back over to him. But this idea, to pick up where he was going, is this idea of the future being. There he is. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so here we go. Finally, we can stop being boring and everybody can laugh. We're always having some sort of technical difficulties. Y'all can see, like it's always going to happen. For whatever reason, my internet, my Wi-Fi just basically kicked me off and came right back on. But yeah, what I was saying is just that presence is going to be a big key factor, and I kind of lost that took me out of my whole little deal or whatnot. But I think that the point being was just that I wanted to hear what Earth was saying about how the future's dictated, like based on who's like because I think that identity is what you're saying is driving that future. Was that where you were going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is the identity who's actually driving the future. And as long as the identity is driving the future, it's already predestined. You really literally you in a space where you have zero choices. You have no options outside of adhering to or acquiescing to whatever the identity says. And you just go along like a puppet on a string, just going. And you have no say so at all. It's like a runaway train. And when somebody tries to stop the train, this is the interesting thing. This is where you can actually look at yourself. When someone says to you, "Wow, do you recognize you do blah blah blah, or you shouldn't do whatever it is," and if you get triggered, it is that identity who is actually triggered. That is who actually goes off because you're stuck in this lane that you cannot get out of at all, and an identity wants to stay there. And any opposition that comes in front of the identity, that the identity will bulldoze it, will fight, kick, scream in order to stay on track. Period.
That's what the ego does. The ego will kill, steal, and destroy to maintain its not necessarily his. For me, it is its existence. It's wild because it goes both ways. It's not always, oh, he's successful because, or she's successful because they got a big ego. They created an identity of themselves in a young age, with it associating with winning, right? And being right. There are also identities that get created that say something vastly different. Actually, the antithesis of an empowering statement, such as, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm weak, I'm dumb, nobody likes me, nothing ever goes my way, I'm the black sheep of the family. These things, just as Earth is describing, they become the identity becomes hell bent on being right, because anything that shows up that says that you're not the black sheep would mean that you're wrong. And if you're wrong, your whole identity is screwed. Like, you got nothing to stand on. You got to create something else. And so it goes both ways. What I'm seeing is that, I think it was Waters said earlier about parents and parental influence. I had a mom who just spoke life and pot. I mean, she had me feeling like I can be whatever I wanted to be. I believed her. Now, that was a choice, because I could have distinguished what she was saying as a lie and allowed myself to have a disempowering or a victim disposition about myself. Talk about being victims. People who have a victim disposition about themselves, everything's always happening to you, nothing ever goes your way. They live their entire lives by default in folly, in perpetual folly. And those loved ones around them is just, they're like, yo, what? I can't understand why this person keeps making these decisions and these choices and choosing to lose or fail at life. And there's almost, because there's a payoff. The payoff is that the ego gets to be right. So if you're listening to this pod, get real present to what your dominant self-image is. Now, all of us have negative thoughts. I have disempowering thoughts every day. But my dominant voice within myself is that I'm the head, not the tail. Greater is he that is in me that is in the world. I am more than a conqueror. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Against all odds, right? Like these things. Anything is possible for he who believes and does not doubt. Like, these things reinforce my identity. And then I go out and seek out wins in life, whether it's in my relationship, with my spouse, with my kids, my performance at work, or my profession, or my career, and my community, these projects that we're working on, looking for validation, manifesting it, because it's all got to be aligned. Otherwise, I'm a fraud. And if I'm a fraud, I don't know who I am. I got to start from scratch again. And so the self-image has to be strong. My experience of myself has to be aligned with who I said I was, and others' experience of me has to be aligned with who I said I was. Whew. And so my future is predicted. It's predicted. So some would say it's already written. Well, I wrote it because I chose my identity. And to Waters' point, I can always choose it if my identity is not serving me anymore, or generating results and outcomes that are less than ideal. I get to erase the old identity and create a new one. Like whenever I'm conscious and cognizant of that choice. What y'all got?
Those thoughts, it's the thought cycle, right? That is what's creating that whole future that Earth was mentioning. Yeah. I can see it so clearly, because if you think that, and we've heard this so many times, right? If you think that you're a loser, then you will lose. You will find a way to lose. There will be situations that come up for you to win, and they won't look that good to you. It's just like I keep saying about our show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's boring. Let's be honest. It's not exciting. Look at you. Look at Win. Look at Win. Win's about to start dying laughing. Look at him. Look at him. He's ready.
I'm actually about to hit that eject button.
It's boring because we're not entertaining. This is not fun. This is not like going to work on yourself and transforming your life to live the life that you actually want to live is not fun. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And definitely nobody wants to hear about it. And so we don't really have mass appeal because that's our lane. That's what the four of us are interested in. And that's what the four of us want to create, is some sort of space for this to happen. And there's been some disagreement because certain people within the elements, certain factions within the elements would like for us to have mass appeal and have millions and millions of subscribers and followers and those types of things. But I'm a proponent of, hey, listen, if we can just help the 11 people who are watching us right now, who are streaming us right now, thank you. If we can help just one of you to make an impact in your life, it's worth it. Because we were able to share what we've actually learned. We were able to share our journeys from where we have come from to where we are now. And I think that by allowing the ego to tell you, this is boring, this is not entertaining, I don't want to talk about this, that to me, that's not being a loser, but that's in that same category as the losing mentality, which is saying, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to work on this. That's not fun to me. I want to go have fun. And listen, we all want to have fun, right? Life is to be lived and to do what you think that's fun. And probably the weirdest thing about the four of us is we think that this is fun. That's probably, I would say, the oddest thing about the four of us. We think this is fun.
Everybody wants to level up, but they want to level up without leveling up. Leveling up is an inside job. It's not an outside job. So everybody that out there that's listening to our voices, know that you can't actually get where you want to go and do the things that you want to do without doing it from the inside out. It requires you to have an examined life. Examine every minuscule of your life to achieve the heights that you want to, go to. I just want to insert that since Water, went there.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I want to go deeper here because, we said it earlier where we believe that the majority of people live a life by default versus a life by design. And so the thing I want to interject at this moment is, from your perspective, what's in the way, man? How come more people don't just, because it's actually invigorating, and as Water said, I'd rather chop it up with you three than go to Snoop Dogg's post Super Bowl party. I'd rather
stop the cap.
Nah, I have no interest. I have zero interest. Somebody text me like, "Oh, you going to?" I'm like, I didn't know. Nah. I'd rather go to take a sound bath like I did last night with the wife and the homies. Like, I'd rather get deep with the brothers and learn something about myself, because I'm a practitioner of this stuff, man. I don't just jump on these calls, get a nugget, sound eloquent and articulate, and then go back to the BS. Like, I am examining, as you described, when so eloquent. I'm examining my life all the time. Now, let me reframe that. Most of when I'm present, I'm not examining my life because I'm just in the moment. But when I'm not present, I'm examining my life, and I'm not present most of the time. Like Water said a couple weeks ago, like, if I'm being honest, I'm not present most of the time. So I want to take these nuggets, these learnings, these sharings, and I want to apply it and become a practitioner of consciousness. One of our goals is to make consciousness an everyday conversation. I believe that we are delivering on that promise. And I realize the more consciousness I have in my life, the better things just go. Everything just kind of works, man. And I'm progressively evolving daily to being who I am. I don't know what the goal is. I'm not attached to that, but I just love the expansion. And so these conversations are more important for me. or what do you got a theory or a knowing as to why this mode of being that we're describing is hidden, and even when we have conversations like this, there'll be like 9 out of 10 people, or 8 out of 10 people, 7 of 10 statistically will say, "Man, that was good stuff, man," but won't go to work on the self-image.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what this does is it actually has you to consider being who you don't know yourself to be. That's at the root of it. If you don't know yourself to be, well, so let me back up. If you know yourself to be worthless, then everything in your life actually evolves around being worthless. Like those are your results. And when someone says to you, well, actually, you're not worthless, you're choosing to be worthless. And if you just make some minor adjustments, you can be worthy of all things. Then it requires someone to be who they don't know themselves to be. We have to understand who we are today, who most people are today. We've actually practiced. We're professionals. We put in years and years and years of work of perfecting that identity. And we literally put in work to do that. And so that's who we know ourselves to be. And for you to be who you don't know yourself to be, for many people, it occurs to be a good idea. It occurs to be an impossibility. It occurs to be, oh, that's good for you. Oh, I'm happy for you. Whatever. And so that stops us. But if we only knew that when we began to be who we've come into this lifetime as, there's a distinction from who you came into this lifetime to be. Because I don't like that doesn't exist. It's who you came into this lifetime as. That's really who you are. When you get to that level, like you don't like that to have a disempowering thought doesn't exist. Like when you were speaking fire, I started thinking about, when you say like these are the things that you do to say you are a conqueror, you're all these things to get past whatever disempowering thought may come up. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, when's the last time I had a disempowering thought? And I was really attempting to like conjure up something. I was like, I've had one. I don't remember the last time I've had a disempowering thought. I just don't. And more than likely, I had a disempowering thought prior to me getting on the path, solidly on the path of fulfilling my purpose. You don't have time for that at all. It never occurs to me to have a disempowering thought. I honestly, there's no cap, no nothing. I don't remember it. I have no recollection of that at all. It's like I've never had one, but I know I've had them. Does that make sense? I don't, it's been so long, I don't remember them at all. And it's just being willing to basically be who you don't know yourself to be. Like I didn't know myself to be this, like who I am today. I didn't know myself to be that. It occurred to me as this mountain that was not scalable. Couldn't climb this mountain. Had no clue how to get there. And we'll say it's self-work. You start with the self, but really you start with partnership. You start with, of course, recognizing within yourself, and then you need others around you. You need others in your circle who are not, it's not the blind leading the blind. And this is why like mentors are so important. Having people who have, more knowledge than you have are so important. It could be someone the same age. It could be somebody younger. It could be someone, who definitely is older, but who has knowledge that you don't have, who can actually pull you along and begin to open up your mind in a way that it's never been opened. So you can start being who you came into this lifetime as. That is so important. That is important. What you got?
I was going to say a couple things. I think one of the things that stops us is that we think we have time. When we're young, we think that we're just kids, and I'll get to that later. I want to have fun and enjoy my life and act a damn fool right now. I have time for that later when I'm 25 or 30. Then when you get 25 and 30, 35, it all comes crashing down. And then you like scared. You scared to face reality. And we get so comfortable with how things are. It's just easy. It's easier that way. It appears or it seems difficult to face reality and do the things that we know we're supposed to be doing. And then it begins to compile against us. All the stuff that we shoved under the rug, or all the stuff that we shoved in the closet, we're either beginning to trip over, or it's coming down on us. And I'll give you an example in terms of relationships. Oh, I don't want a girlfriend. I don't want a boyfriend. I'm too young for that. I want to kick it. I want to party. Then the next thing you know, you're 40 years old. Or you're 18 and 20 and you're eating Snickers and Pringles and all sorts of things. Next thing you know, you're 30 and got diabetes. Or you're 18 and you're not working, you're not going to school. Next thing you know, you're 30 and unemployed. You're unemployable. All that foolishness catches up to us, and then we don't want to face it and get into correction mode because it feels difficult. It feels insurmountable at that point. But like Earth said, we always got a choice. Sometimes it requires us to face the facts and just do what's required to dig ourselves out of that hole. Otherwise, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So we got to stop lying to ourselves and take the necessary actions to get the outcomes that we want. And I'll just pause on that.
Yeah. So when do you think, and I'll say like my view of what you're saying, when I look at it, everything you're saying points back at the identity and having you to delay and having you to not take certain actions. And next thing you're 40 and your life looks the same, or whatever that is for you. You keep having the same outcome. So would you say that still points back at the identity?
Absolutely.
So good. Now, this is I'm looking at the time. This is what I wanted to ask all of the elements. Because we like to make it personal. As Fire can always say, make it personal. So what would you say was your predominant identity? And I'll start with myself, of course, since I brought it up. For me, it was, I'll show you. And it started, and I could see it like it was just yesterday. It started when I was a kid. I was probably, I don't know, 5, who knows, maybe earlier than that, but my earliest memory is around 5 years old, probably. When, people would pick on me because I was dark, because of my complexion. And then at some point, I was like, well, I'll show you. And guess what I did to show them? I would go out and literally lay out in the sun to see if I could get darker to show them what dark is. And that was my way of like show them. That was my identity. And it actually went through life with that identity. I'll show them. Or I'll show you, brother. And it got to a point where it had no useful life for me. None. Absolutely none. But it took going through programs, doing the work to actually get like, that was it. I'll show you. And it ran my life, period. If anybody says something, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll show you. And that was it. And I made whatever happened needed to happen. So what your elements got?
Ooh, man. I had to dig through some clutter as I was listening to you, because there's a lot that I thought was there as the predominant thought stream or identity. But I think I landed on I am somebody. And what I was grappling with was like, my identity was given by my mom largely, and bishops and pastors in my youth. And those bishops and pastors had spoken over my life, and they had said that I was anointed as a youngster. Like, that one is anointed, so he's set aside. He's special. This is God's son, if you will. And so I think when I take all of that and I bring it to one line, it is I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. And so inside of that, as I look at my life, my greatest fear is not being broke. My greatest fear is not having an appreciable impact as a result of my being here. My greatest fear is not making a difference. That is sort of the antithesis of being somebody, right? So on the bright side is that I am somebody, and on the dark side is that you don't matter, bud. You insignificant, boy. You a grain of sand on the beach, man. You don't make a difference, and you don't matter. So that's what I got.
Yeah, and I'd say for me, that was good. That was good, by the way, Fire. Mine is, you can't tell me what to do. Or better yet, don't tell me what to do, as a command, right? That is what has, I would say, my predominance, what defined me. And it just really ran the show for so long. And I can say that it really did when Earth was saying that your future is already laid out based upon the identity that is inside of you. That's really what it has been throughout my entire life. I can't work for someone else, right? I cannot be an employee, because the moment that someone actually starts talking to me with a certain tone as if they're telling me what to do, then I literally I get into the mode of, don't tell me what to do. And the face comes and everything, right? It's like, hey, don't tell me what to do. And that's a really, really disempowering place to be in, because sometimes people need to tell you what to do. Like, for instance, you go to the doctor, or you just hire a professional for some sort of information, whatever it may be. I run a business. I have to hire consultants. I have to get coaching and things like that. So without without dropping that, without losing that, and without going through the work to peel back the layers of the onion of that, I would never seek advice from someone else. I would never seek help. I would never want to be wrong about something. I would want to be a know-it-all, those types of things, as opposed to now I do seminars. That's how we met, like the personal development seminar. Like who's who wants to actually be told that there's something that can actually something that can benefit you when you have that whole. Don't tell me what to do. When you have that disposition, and it to me that is a disempowering space to be in. It may seem powerful, but it seems powerful to the identity which is willing to do whatever it takes in order to survive. And that's what it would be for me is don't tell me what to do. How about you, Wayne?
So for me, I am a male Aries, very typical. And I'm just going to say it straight up and down. It's real nasty. I mean, I wish I could use profanity, but I know water would eject me right about now. So I'm going to just say it like this.
You're correct.
It's F you. You know, I'm gonna get it done and I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need nothing to nobody. And how it shows up is that, I would do a lot of things on my own. And I would work and grind and hustle to get whatever needs to be done. And what I realized, when I got a little bit older is that to be effective in your life, that you need people. You need to have, very solid relationships with people all over the world. That's why, you'll always hear me. I always say, we're messes alone. And we often mess up our relationships by being and being that way. You can't have a effective brotherhood or sisterhood or effective marriage. You can't be effective in a corporate environment if you think that you can just do everything on your own. That's not how life works. Life works better when you have networks of people that care for you and that love you and that respect you and admire you and vice versa.
All right, nice. The elements got just a little, as we can say. Can we say that? Can we say that word? Water. Start with an N. A. Can we say that? Is that permissible?
Yes, naked.
Yes. Okay. Good.
That
Good.
fires, but we have to always articulate it. Naked for us means that you get vulnerable. Okay, vulnerable is a really scary thing for a lot of people, and people don't want to do it, especially men. None of us want to be vulnerable, so we call it naked just to make it a little fun. That's fire. I think fire should put a little R circle around that or a little TM to trademark that thing because that's his term. Get naked. Yeah. And we actually call him the streaker of the group. He's actually the streaker of the group. But yes, sir, we can say that.
It's true. It's true. Hey, Earth, why don't you close this out? We'll go you,
Yeah.
Win, me, and then Water because he got it next week.
Yeah. So I'll close this out. I'll start. It's life is about choices, and most of us know that. We've all heard life is about choices. But what we don't talk about is who's making the choices. How are these choices being made? Under what conditions are these choices being made under? We don't talk about those things. A lot of times that's not something that we consider. For me, that's like always the missing component is who is making the choices. Whomever's making the choices is who says so. And in many instances, it is not us. The moment you get triggered, I promise you, it is not you, the self, who's actually making those choices. It is the emotions. The emotions are making those choices. So I'll leave everyone with this, and that is check in with yourself. It is so very important to continuously and constantly check in with yourself to see who is saying so, especially if you're someone who gets triggered. You're easily triggered. Constantly check in with yourself. One of my first elders. That's the first thing. That's one of the first things he taught me was that, and that was Maladoma Somé. He said, whenever you're triggered, whenever you're bothered, check in with yourself to see who is actually behind the wheel, who is driving. And that has actually worked for me up to a point now where it's very seldom, if ever, that I get triggered because I'm always, I would always check in so I knew it was there. So I won't leave everybody with that. I can be long winded on that one, but that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, for me, I would say, with respect to um, examination, like day in, day out, every day, all day, ask yourself a bunch of questions. You know, is this beer, is that good for my circulation? Is that Snickers, is that good for my sugar? Is that good for my hypertension? Or should I be eating carrots and celery? Should I be drinking water? Is that what's best for me? Should I be using profanity towards my colleague or my significant other? Is that going to give me the outcome that I really want? Or should I take a step back and try to negotiate this in a good faith manner? Can I get an understanding of this person? Where is this person coming from, and can that person get an understanding of me? And can we come to a happy medium? So constantly be examining everything that you say, everything that you do, how you do it, because it's also part of your being. It's not what you're saying and what you're doing. Sometimes it's how you being about it too. Just examine every little thing. Try to gain consciousness every single day. And I promise you, if you intentionally do that, then your 2022 is going to be so much better than 2021.
Word, well said. I want to leave you guys with this. The ego is cunning. The ego is cunning and will do anything to assure its survival. Things like surrounding yourself with a bunch of yes men and women who will validate who you think you are, even though that's not how you actually show up in the world. We know some people, some famous people that we can spout off who surround themselves with people who validate who they think they are, even though that's not who they are for the majority of the world. I want you guys to look up and do some research on an exercise called ego death, or just look it up. Look up ego death, read about it. And what I want to leave you with is, if your ego does not serve you, first of all, if you can live an egoless existence, you will experience a peace that surpasses understanding and connectedness with the whole. But we know that we live in the reality, we live in our human faculties, and so the ego will emerge. But if your ego is not serving you, consider an ego death and what that looks like for you. Inside of that, you get to recreate. It could be tough for some of you because, like I said, that thing is going to fight for dear life. But who do you want to be? You get to say, or who are you? Going back to Earth's point, who are you? You know that your life is not working. You can't figure out, there's a disconnect between who you think you are and who you actually are, who you're being and how you're showing up in the world and who you actually are. There is unrest in your soul because they're not aligned. And so versus striving to be someone, Go within and find out who you actually are. And allow that entity, that being, to come out and play. And be fully expressed in the world. And if who you've been being is not working or misaligned, that's the ego death part. That's the work that has to be done. All right. Water.
All right. Well, I'll close it out by saying it's very simple. Just remember that you do have a say. You are the creator of your life. You're a very powerful being, and you have a say so in ... whatever that may be. Next week, I will be the innovator of the elements to create a different kind of show than we have created thus far. Next week, the topic will be questions women have always wanted to ask men, but never have. And with this show, we're going to need some significant participation from our faithful women followers, because we see you every show in the comments. So you can comment now. You can comment on our Facebook page. You can come into our Facebook group to comment. You can email us at, I'm about to pull it up on the screen right now. You can email us at 4elementsunited@gmail.com. However, we need the questions. So what you can do is you can write them out. You can make a video of it, or you can make an audio of it. And what we're going to do is the elements, we're going to basically mash those together. We're going to figure out which ones are probably some of the most interesting ones and the most impactful ones that we can answer collectively. And women, you'll be able to ask questions and have a man's opinion of something that you just have never asked. Maybe you were too scared to ask. Maybe you just never got around to it. But that's what next show will be. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I promise you that we're not going to allow Earth to slow us down next week. We're gonna call him much earlier and make sure that he's ready on time. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Peace, everybody.
Later.